Hey guys, how you doing? So Dan from Trading with Dan here. So another great article here on China and what is basically going on, I think, as outlined perfectly by Yahoo News here. So this article is from yesterday, 27th of March 2020. And it's titled, "Don't let the Chinese Communist Party use their virus to its advantage. When it comes to the global virus pandemic, the CCP is acting as both arsonist and firefighter. The first response of China's authoritarian government was intimidation. The CCP actively suppressed knowledge of the virus's existence in Wuhan by silencing physicians and prohibiting medical professionals from publishing findings that could have been used to save lives. When the party could no longer deny the viral outbreak, it dithered in December and January as cases of the disease in Wuhan and neighbouring cities skyrocketed, caring more for its monopoly on power than the welfare of its people. And in February, as the virus spread throughout the world, Foreign Minister Wang Yi pressured neighbouring countries to keep travel for the People's Republic of China open for reputational reasons. Now, however, China is seeking to whitewash its failings and blame the virus on other nations, such as the United States. The historical context is important. According to a study at the University of Southampton in the United Kingdom, had China's political leaders acted quickly, they could have lowered the number of cases within their own country by 95%. Instead, the party's political paranoia turned a localized viral outbreak into a global crisis, with over 22,000 deaths reported worldwide so far, obviously. According to the IMF, the global economic impact of the virus will approximate that of the Great Recession of 2008 and possibly surpass it. I think it's almost certain to surpass it by exponents. That, however, is only if the figures we see now coming out of China are accurate. Given the CCP's reputation of altering figures for its political benefit, the death toll and economic impact are likely far worse. As it stands, the institutional failure of Chinese government is stress testing the healthcare systems of every nation on the earth, and by stress testing I think it's basically gone beyond a stress testing measure. It's basically overwhelmed a lot of them. Italy's hospitals are overwhelmed in the United States, and the United States is on pace to run out of ventilators in 4 weeks. In Iran, one person is dying every 10 seconds from it. Amid this crisis, the CCP today is hard at work, not to right its wrongs, but to rewrite the past. The party is waging a multi-front propaganda campaign that shifts the blame of the virus to the United States, whilst claiming that China's response bought time for the rest of the world to prepare. The Chinese government is also presenting itself as a global health provider, shipping face masks and test kits to nations with shortages. This isn't necessarily the case either. Lots of orders were made for these from China, and they were blocked by the CCP, and even people from other countries were sending the masks into China when it first started to charitable organisations, and they were also hijacked and confiscated by the CCP, and now they're obviously trying to use them as bargaining chips, even if it's just to gain reputational points. Of course, China is right to give this medical equipment to nations in need, but its government is bundling misinformation with this aid. So yeah, it's obviously using this as a bargaining chip, using this for leverage. These lies serve a higher purpose for the party, turning the virus into a net positive for the CCP. Consulting firm Horizon Advocacy published a report last week based on Chinese government and state media sources that details China's plan to position its economy in its strategic sectors to box out other industrialized nations still reeling from the virus's impact. According to China's State Administration of Science, Technology and Industry for National Defense, China must now jumpstart its economy to pave the way for international market expansion after the epidemic is over. Policymakers in Washington should take this gambit seriously, but they shouldn't assume that America's friends and partners do. In recent years, China, working via companies such as Huawei and through its much publicised Belt and Road Initiative, has greatly expanded its economic footprint, yet far too many of China's trading partners remain blind to the true nature of China's political system and the threat it poses. I mean, this is obviously written from an American perspective. Other countries are aware of the influence China is trying to dominate on them and the world, and Europe as well, and Africa. They're aware of this, but it's not as simple as it is for America, because America is the other country that then decides to exact its will across the whole world. So whilst America might think that other countries don't see what China's trying to do, they do see it, but then it's just like, well, it's we've got to choose between America or China. I mean, you're both going to try and control us, you're both going to try and manipulate things to benefit yourselves, but obviously trade can benefit both sides. But obviously America, it's not as it's basically a zero-sum game, isn't it, between America and China? One's going to basically get it and the other one isn't, whereas obviously the other countries, they're just part of the system, basically played between the both of them, if you understand what I'm saying. The United States must blunt CCP's disinformation campaigns, doing so with fostering unity at home. To date, the most public debate in the United States is centered around President Trump's decision to call it the Chinese virus. The president did not choose his words out of racism, nor did countless journalists and pundits who used the same phrase throughout the month of January, but in response to CCP propaganda. Yet the phrase, while accurate, fails to distinguish between the Chinese people and the Chinese Communist Party. The citizens of China are not the instigators of this crisis, but rather the first victims of the party's self-interested response to it. This is another thing that I've said. I mean, the Chinese Communist Party is obviously the ruling party of China. They are basically exert their authority via obviously state officials and everything across the rest of the country. So the distinction is more than a public relations message. It's a critical nuance that American leaders must internalize. We cannot stand up to the CCP if we fail to differentiate between victims and victimizers, just as Americans cannot unite the world whilst assuming the worst about one another. The Chinese Communist Party started this fire, but they are angling to emerge from the ashes as the saviour. Whilst acknowledging its current helpful efforts, America must stand together and call the party what it is, an instigator. So, apologies for that noise then. My daughter just walked in. She's just woken up from her nap. But anyway, so it's not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. Always do your own research, and I will speak to you guys soon.